Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia. Let's talk books, and today I have a review of Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is one of the books that has been on my TBR the longest. I purchased this copy of Love in the Time of Cholera on my first trip to Paris at Shakespeare & Co. And I was trying to see if there's a date on here. There's not. But this was way back in college, and so it's been over a decade that I've owned this book, that it's been sitting on the bookshelf, and I finally picked it up and read it. So there will be spoilers in this review, but not until the end. So I'll let you know once I get into the spoilery section for anybody that is not interested in spoilers. So this first part will not contain any spoilers, but let me give you a brief overview of the story of Love in the Time of Cholera. So you're following the story of Florentino Ariza, who lives in kind of the Caribbean part of Colombia, in a port area, which is where Marquez basically grew up. He falls in love with Fermina Daza. And Fermina Daza is a girl that is very sheltered, well taken care of by her family. Her father has big plans for her to marry up in society, and Florentino Ariza is a telegraph operator. He is a nobody, but he sees her walking to her private school every day and just falls in love with her. Initially, they have this correspondence going on between the two of them. She seems to be in love with him as well. They are found out, of course. And yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave the premise at that. The book centers on their story, right? Their story and their lives. So first, I want to start with the good things of Love in the Time of Cholera. I think if you are a heavily plot-driven reader, this is probably not going to be the book for you, because part of the beauty of this book is the language in which Marquez writes. And even though I read it in the English translation, honestly I should have read it in Spanish. I read it, and Spanish is my first language, but I picked it up. I had a copy of it in English. But even in English, in a translated English, the language is beautiful. The way that Marquez writes about the everyday is gorgeous. This is about, people having relationships with one another, people going about their daily lives, in interacting with one another, and also just like thinking. Like, this is what the book is really about. It's about the everyday and about how beautiful, all the beauty that there is in the everyday actions and thoughts of individuals. So the language throughout the whole book is just gorgeous. You get insights into the 19th century here. I think you see how cosmopolitan the world was in the 19th century, and that this included Latin America. Like, I was actually laughing because I was remembering how Adriana Herrera was criticized by somebody on Twitter because she's writing a series of books that center Latinx characters in Paris during the 19th century. And in here you see that people traveled, especially if you had the money, right? You could travel. The ship trip, like the trip from Colombia to Paris was one that was done by ship. It took something like 10+ days. It was doable though, and during her life you see Fermina Daza make that trip several times. And you also see though how integral like port life and ship life was to people that lived in those areas, right? You also see obviously the barriers and of medicine, right? Mostly you see that in the cholera aspect via Fermina Daza's husband, Dr. Juvenal Urbino, who is a kind of European educated doctor who kind of sees best practices of dealing with epidemics in Europe, comes back to Colombia for his practice, and notices all the things going on wrong in the city, in the way that they deal with disease, cleanliness, with the with the sewage system, like there's just, you do see that aspect. And those sections in which, the sections in which Marquez does descriptions of all of these are both horrifying and gross and beautiful. Like it does give you a sense of being there. And I loved that. I've been reading a lot of books set in the 19th century this year, and so I really enjoyed seeing it from a Latin American perspective. All right, let's get to the not so good, because while I have a lot of really great things to say about Love in the Time of Cholera, the bad parts are incredibly important as well. And this is where, in order to talk about my criticism, the things I have to criticize about this book, I have to give spoilers. So if you're not interested in spoilers, check out now. Check out now. So let's start with the first really bad thing in this book. It's really about an obsessive man, right? Like, I knew that there was going to be a love story in here, but it turns out there's not really a love story. It's about an obsession. Florentino Ariza is obsessed with Fermina. So they end up not having a relationship together, right? She gets sent off to a different part of Colombia with other family members. They actually manage to correspond while her dad's trying to keep them away. She comes back, sees him in the street. They have their first spoken words to one another, and she immediately knows she can't be with this man. Like, she's not in love, and she's not gonna continue this relationship. So they break it off, and she ends up marrying somebody else. Their whole lives then are spent apart. They've only spoken a few direct words to each other. They've written letters, but they've only spoken a few words to each other. And the whole time Florentino Ariza is obsessed with her. He cannot keep her out of her mind. While he has sexual and emotional relationships with other women, he refuses to marry anyone else because he wants to keep himself single in case she ever becomes single. And in fact, he says outright that he's just waiting for her husband to die so he can kind of restart a relationship with her. Has he asked her for this? No. In fact, she has very directly let him know that she does not love him and she does not want to be with him. She does end up falling in love with her husband. She has a happy life with her husband, and the whole time Florentino is obsessed with her. So extremely unhealthy relationship here. That is not love, it's obsession. The next really bad element here is sexual assault that is passed off as just sex, like normal sex. Florentino Ariza had maintained himself a virgin as he's waiting for Fermina Danza, but after she gets married, he has his first sexual experience, and it's sexual assault. This woman rapes him, and Marquez treats it like it's normal, like, oh, this was just a normal thing. He had sex, and now he's gonna go off and have sex with other women. Except it was sexual assault, and that's the part that I didn't like. That the sexual assault is described in really beautiful ways. But it's also very clearly sexual assault. So, in fact, it's Marquez kind of condoning these actions, not criticizing them in any way, shape, or form. And that I'm not okay with that, right? And then my third criticism of this book is the pedophilia. There is clear pedophilia here. Towards the end of the story, we're following these characters. They're going about their life. Florentino Ariza is an old man, and he becomes the ward of a young girl. And she comes to, he becomes the ward of a young girl, and he describes her as not someone, as a child. He describes her as a child. Okay, and he says he can tell that she will be beautiful in the future, but that she still behaves and thinks like a child. She is underage, but he sees how beautiful she's going to be, and so he grooms her. He grooms her and ends up having sex with her. And you might think this is you using, modern morality on people who would not have had it, except So Marquez gives us the wording that Firmino thinks of. He tells us straight out that Florentino sees her as a child and that he's cultivating her, making her feel comfortable with him. That's grooming. It's grooming. And then he has sex with her while she's still underage. While he still sees her body and her mind as that of a child. Like, it's clear cut there. And to me it's clear cut. Marquez is giving us those details. He's not criticizing those elements though. He's kind of condoning them in the way he writes about them. And so again, not okay with that. And so I didn't rate this book on Goodreads. Like I keep my Goodreads very updated, and I did not end up rating this book because while I see all these good elements in the book, the bad elements are bad. Like these things are really bad and not something I can even recommend. And so in this review, I just really wanted to talk about it. I just wanted to talk about the book and let people decide if they want to read it or not. I do plan on reading more Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I want to read Cien Años de Soledad, 100 Years of Solitude, and I want to read it in Spanish. You all can tell me down below if I'm going to see more of this or not. Yeah, like I said, I want to read more Marquez. I really enjoyed the writing. I know 100 Years of Solitude was a pivotal book. It really put Latin American literature on the map globally, and so for that alone I need to read it. And like I said, I'm going to read it in Spanish probably next year, 2021. Yeah. Like, I'll leave it at that. I'll let the rest of you comment down below. Now that I've read it, I'm gonna look up other reviews. I can't be the first one who has noticed these elements in this book. So I've been avoiding reviews of it just because I wanted to have my own experience with this book. And now that I have, I'll go in search of other people's opinions. But feel free to leave your opinion down below. Feel free to disagree with me on anything I said here. I'm always happy to have a conversation with anybody that's legit, like wanting to have a conversation about these things. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.